Today's guest is no stranger to the Warrnambool area. Last year, Vicki Jellie served our city as mayor. However, she was already a local hero, not only in our eyes, but was officially named the Australian Local Hero of 2017, receiving her award from then Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull. So what did she do to receive this award? Well, today I am interviewing Vicki because her story is not only inspiring, but is a lesson of how just one person and a community can make a difference. Today's conversation is being filmed by Fitz Media in Warrnambool and will appear on YouTube, Facebook and the Strength of Us podcast for prosperity, so that future generations will know who to thank when they see the beautiful building and receive the vital services of the South West Regional Cancer Centre. Yes, thanks to the efforts of local hero Vicki Jellie, patients can receive treatment here rather than spending hours on the road driving between Warrnambool, Geelong and Melbourne. And today we are going to find out the story behind this achievement and get to know the local hero herself. Well, thank you, Vicki, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I wanted to record this today because you are a part of history for this town. You've achieved amazing things, more than a lot of people do in a lifetime. So I want to get to know you first. So where were your parents from? Where did you grow up?
I grew up right here in Warrnambool. All my life I've come and gone, as you do as a teenager, and you go off to Melbourne and things like that. But I was born here. My family were all from here. Went to school, all those sort of things. So yeah, very local.
So where did you go to school around here?
I went to East Warrnambool Primary School, and then it was to Warrnambool High School, as it was called then, Warrnambool College.
Oh, very good. And did you go on to study after school?
No, I didn't. I saw the lights of Melbourne beckoning to me when I was 17, and oh yes, I've got to get to Melbourne, as you do sometimes. So I went to Melbourne and, shared houses with people and worked for an accountant back then for a couple of years to experience that, and then went overseas, as you did back then as well, went to the UK and that for a year or so, and then came back to Warrnambool.
Yeah. So Warrnambool still drew you back?
It draws you back, and look, as you grow older you realise why it does.
Yeah.
When you're 18, 22, 23, you think the grass is always greener, and sometimes it is, of course, but it was great to get out and get experience. But coming back, we've got a great city here.
We do.
And I think sometimes you need to go away and have a look around the world or Australia and experience different things to appreciate what we've got.
Absolutely, and I think it's really definitely a place that's for all ages. Yeah. I think, being in the middle of the city, it's great for when you're, as you said, in your 20s and so on, but if you want to have a family or if you are a child yourself, there is so much that Warrnambool has to offer for everyone that I don't think you could ever get bored here.
No, and the scope that we've got here with education, and that's grown since my day. It's grown, it used to be that people did go away, but now we've got Deakin University and we've got Southwest TAFE. We've got, great education. So people don't have to go away these days. So it's really important to look at that, and exciting for the city. So we offer so much.
Yeah, even, as a teacher myself, I'm seeing a lot of people can get their teaching degree right here, which is so fantastic. Because, I grew up in Shepparton and I had to move to Melbourne at 18, and I didn't necessarily want to go out there and live in the big crazy city world by myself, but here they get to be home with their family and study, which is fantastic.
That's right. No, it's important on a lot of levels. They can have part-time jobs, study, be with their family, all that sort of thing. It's a big thing for rural and regional families to send the children off to university, the cost and all that sort of thing. So we are fortunate if you choose to study in Warrnambool.
Absolutely. Oh, good. So you then came back to Warrnambool. Were you dating at the time? When did you meet your partner?
Well, Warrnambool, it was always I was back here. I'd been overseas and came back, and was working. And, you know, the scene back then in Warrnambool was you went to the pub because that's all there was. We had a lot of big bands and things like Skyhooks, all those sort of big bands from a long time ago. I'm showing my age. But they used to come down here and just play at the pubs. And
fantastic.
Then they became famous. So that was the scene here in Warrnambool. So, you know, with my friends, I went out and I met my future husband, Peter Jellie, at one of the hotels in Warrnambool, as many other people did meet their partner.
What was your first impression of him?
Very lively and fun. No, look, we got to know each other through mutual friends, really. That's how it started, but got to know each other, and yes, I suppose started dating. And which was great.
And were you both working at the time? What was he doing?
Yes, he was from here as well. His family were farming family from out at Woodford, so just only 10 kilometres away. But he, at that stage, was working in Geelong, but within the rural industry. So he would come home for weekends and things like that. So, and then he got a job in Adelaide for a rural company. So I then probably 6 months later followed him to Adelaide.
Okay. So then you knew it was the real thing.
Well, we did, yes.
Does that mean you moved in together before marriage?
Oh, we did.
Oh, dear.
We did, yes.
How did that go down?
Oh, there were some questions back then, but anyway, that's all right. That's
well,
fine.
It all worked out beautifully because you ended up marrying him. So how old were you when you got married?
26.
26?
Yes.
Well, that's a good age.
Yes.
My mum was married at 18, so you did very well.
Yes, I know. Went and saw the world and did a few things, that's right.
That's fantastic. And did you continue working after you were married, or did you start having children?
When we moved to Adelaide, we came home and married, and then actually moved back to town, to Warrnambool region. We went on one of the family farms, his family farms, so became dairy farmers. But I did continue working myself.
What were you doing?
On the farm. I was in customer service in banking.
Okay.
For about 14 years back then, so
you didn't have to put the boots on and do the farm thing?
I did sometimes. Every now and then I'd milk with him. Which was good. Look, I was a bit nervous about it because I hadn't been brought up to that. But I enjoyed spending the time with him in the dairy when I had to. When no one else could milk with him, I'd help out and things like that. So that was great.
Did you have children together?
Yes. We've got girls who we lived out of town, and I know it was probably, they look back now, they're grown women now, but, you know, all they wanted to do was move into town. We're only 10 kilometres out of town, which wasn't far, but, you know, they wanted to go be down the street with their friends and all that sort of thing. So, but there's a school out at Woodford, so they grew up at the Woodford Primary School, which was a great education, and Peter was on the school council there for many, many years.
Oh, great. And
then they went to Brower College, and he was on the council there. So he was very involved in that sort of thing, community, the Rural Fire Brigade, football club, all those sort of things. He was involved in that.
So was he the influence for you to become more involved in things like that? No,
not really. He did that. I went to cook the cakes for the parents club things and all that sort of stuff. No, really, I'm really a pretty quiet and shy person. People mightn't know that deep down, that's me. I've had to change my life, but back then, no, he was the one involved in the community. I really wasn't the one.
So you were the opposites attract in a lot of ways.
Well, yes, I suppose we were. I supported him in doing that, but it was just his thing. He talked the talk. He loved being with people and got on with people, and was a mover and a shaker in lots of things, and loved all that connection with the schools and things like that.
Well, great. Sounds a bit like my own marriage. I'm the talky talk, and he's the quiet person who just supports me from the sidelines.
But, that's good, because you go off each other then. You sort of can work together to support each other.
Absolutely. I do believe in opposites attract. I've learnt that in my older age. I think if I married someone who's as crazy and loud as me, it probably wouldn't have worked. worked. So you had your girls, and then at what point did you notice that Peter was starting to become sick? So what age was he when that was all happening?
No, we didn't notice. We didn't notice. He had just turned, let me think, 49.
Really young.
49. Actually, our birthdays are the same day.
Oh, wow.
Which is a bit funny. Anyway, we'd had our birthday and we decided that we were going to move into town, into Warrnambool.
Yeah.
And we'd just purchased a house. We hadn't taken it over. And we'd signed for that a couple of weeks after our birthday. He was 49.
And you sold up the farm?
No, the farm was in the family sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he was about to change jobs. The farm had been turned into housing blocks.
Right.
So we didn't have a job anymore. So we had to reinvent ourselves, I suppose.
Yeah.
So we decided we'd move into town. So we'd signed for this house a couple of weeks after our birthday. And that was at the end of March. And he... really, like, big, strong guy, you know.
Yeah.
And he was swallowing differently.
Okay.
And he had a bit of a sore throat, and he went to the doctor. I had to nag him probably to go to the doctor because,
Yes.
you know, he didn't need.
Yes.
But he went to our wonderful GP, Stuart Smith, who's wonderful, and talked about whatever it was. And Stuart said to him, "You're swallowing differently." He said, "Oh, yeah, it's a bit different." And he'd lost a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
We thought that's a great thing,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
We, you know, didn't take that as anything. Stuart said, "Oh, well, we'll have a endoscopy and have a look down."
Yeah.
So that was booked for 2 weeks later. So I dropped him off at the hospital, waited for a phone call to come pick him up, went and picked him up. And in hindsight now, looking, when I walked into that, the hospital area there, he wasn't quite right, but he didn't say anything. He said, "Oh, we just got to wait for the doctor."
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, okay." No, I was oblivious,
Yeah.
just sitting there waiting for the doctor. The doctor came and said, "Oh, you're in trouble. There's definite cancer there in your esophagus."
Yeah.
Which was huge shock. Huge
It
shock.
would have been a massive
Yeah,
shock.
it was huge shock because he was just going in to have a look down his throat and nothing was going to happen.
And other than a discomfort in his throat, he was well.
But as the doctor spoke, I think a lot was going through my head, and I said, "Oh, your back's been sore." And the doctor said, "What do you mean?" And he'd had it, you know, he worked with cattle and things, and
Yeah.
he was then working for the Midfield Group.
Yep.
And he, you know, was on trucks and often jumped down
Yeah.
off things, and he said, "Oh, I've just hurt my back jumping down off a truck or something," which was quite normal. And I said, "Yes, but it just hasn't been healing, whereas normally it would have."
Yeah.
So the doctor ordered a scan for the next day, and he lit up like a Christmas tree.
So it was right through him.
Well, it was, yeah, in a lot of parts. So that was a big shock to come to terms with that. So the next few days after that, there were a lot of tests, and his back actually deteriorated really quickly. And we had to get him an ambulance to get him out of bed, to get him to hospital. And they looked further and decided they would fly him off to Melbourne.
Yeah.
Sort of all happened very quickly. So he was flown off to Melbourne because there was no treatment here.
Yeah.
He was flown off to the Epworth there in East Melbourne, and to talk to an oncologist and a radiotherapy physician. So that was a huge shock. And our girls were at secondary school and university,
Yeah.
you know, in their 17, 18, 20 sort of age group.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing to have to sit down, and in those few days leading up, him going that he had cancer, and when we didn't know it all then.
Yeah, it would have been absolutely devastating for them, and that would have definitely impacted on every part of their lives as well.
Absolutely. We went down to Melbourne. The girls didn't come in immediately. They had people sort of look after them, or, you know,
Yeah.
they stayed with people, and one daughter
Yeah.
was in Melbourne. So anyway, so we went down there to go through all this, but they showed that the cancer was in various parts of his body, and they had hoped they could do something with the esophagus, but it was too late. It was too far gone. It was
so
stage 4.
They knew very quickly that
Yes,
it was
absolutely.
too far gone.
Yeah, it was stage 4. As soon as we had a full diagnosis down there.
You must have had your whole life flash before your eyes of what's this going to look like? You know?
We did, and we just signed for the new house. That hadn't settled, and we had to move out of the other house. All these things were happening.
Yeah.
Kids at uni, all things like that. Probably a bit naive to the fact of, is this real?
Yeah.
You know, is this happening to us? It happens to other people. Why would it be happening to us?
Yeah.
And often, well, in life with anything, until something happens to you, you don't really understand what it's like. It's the walk a mile in my shoes type thing. Yeah. And it hit us really big. So,
and as you said, he was this big, larger than life bloke.
Yeah.
That sometimes men often feel like, and we kind of look at them like they are a mountain.
Yeah.
You know, it's impossible they could ever crumble.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. Reliable, all those things, absolutely. So it was really hard. So anyway, he had to have radiotherapy treatment for about 8 weeks. Now, you can't drive from Warrnambool to Melbourne every day for radiotherapy.
Yeah.
Radiotherapy treatment, in reality, you're there for half an hour for 10 minutes, 15 minutes of treatment. So we had to actually find accommodation. We didn't have anyone to stay with in Melbourne, so we had to rent an apartment near the hospital for those 8 weeks, and that enabled us to bring the girls back and forward between school. You know, they'd come down the train or whatever. Peter's parents came down and visited, so he was an inpatient first, and then we moved him into the apartment so he could just walk across the road to have his treatment, and also chemotherapy as well. So it was pretty full on.
So there wasn't too much going back and forth. It was really staying there and being away from your community.
Yeah, we made that decision. If I couldn't have gone, we both had to walk away for our jobs at that stage, and we were lucky we could. So we said, no, I'm not going to have him sitting down there by himself, because otherwise he would have had to stay in hospital and do it.
Isolating enough.
Yeah, that's right. So we were away from the community, your family, your friends, the school, you know, the whole thing. So we stayed down there and came back and forth. I think we came back one weekend, but he was exhausted as well. Yeah. But he was very strong. He protected us. By really, you know, he never complained. Yeah. He had to have a walking stick in the end, and, you know, he was 49, walking stick, couldn't get in the car properly, things like that. You know, even have a bath, he couldn't do that properly because, you know, you'd have to help him in and out. And at 49, he wasn't wanting all that. No. So he was very brave and went through everything, and I'm great, I'm fine, all that sort of thing. So we got through that and were able to come home, and were then handed over to the amazing Terry Hayes, the oncologist here in Warrnambool. Yeah. And were handed over to her and back to Stuart Smith, our GP, for treatment for chemotherapy then.
What were they hoping for with the chemo? Was it to slow it down, or? It
was hoping to slow it down. It was really palliative chemotherapy that when all else fails, you'll try it. And he was wanting to try everything as much as he could. But when we started the chemo here with Terry Hayes, he insisted he would still go to work, not full time, and look, Colin McKenna at Midfield was great to allow him to do what he could, but he wanted that connection, he wanted to be normal. So he'd head off to work with the bottle of chemotherapy, you know, the line going into him, off he'd go to work.
Oh, really?
Or he'd go up to St John of God and be hooked up there for a few hours.
Were you happy for him to do that, or were you
not happy?
Worried?
Not happy, but it wasn't going to stop him. But it's what he wanted to do. And again, there was hope. There was hope while he was having that treatment. I suppose did a lot of behind the scenes asking questions and a lot of things, and And hindsight now, looking back, he obviously did that without me as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But every time I would walk into that hospital room in Melbourne, no, all's good and things like that. And I remember when we left to come home, I just happened to be there when the doctor's there, and that's not always easy. And I just said, well, what now? Where are we? And she looked at him and looked back at me and said, this is very aggressive. And even though we've hit it hard, there'll be a minuscule bit somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we came home with that knowledge, but I think Dr. Terry Hayes here really brought it home to us with our first appointment of where are we with this? And she said, you know, this is stage 4, this is serious. And I remember Peter sitting back on the chair saying, well, there's got to be 10 stages. We're only at stage 4, but he hadn't done the homework I had.
Yes,
you know, stage 4 was really not good.
And stage 4 in different cancers means different things, because I have a friend who has stage 4 kidney cancer, and she's on tablets that are maintaining her, and that's the best outcome for her, is to maintain. She will never be cured, but she'll get to live, you know, a long life as long as it's maintained. Whereas for this esophageal cancer, obviously, what year was this around?
2008.
2008, and I wonder, you know, things have changed since then. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, when did he reach that point, that moment that he knew he needs to start making those preparations of what he wants to leave behind? Was he in denial the whole time? Yeah. Oh, bless him.
No, he just wouldn't have it, even though he was told up front to get your affairs in order. They were the words, and I feel so sorry I remember poor Terry saying that, and we didn't know her then. Become very good friends with her now because of the part she's played in our lives. But, you know, get your affairs in order. I remember we got home and we had words about it because he didn't want to believe it, which I understood. I didn't either. But anyway, he continued on having treatment, and we asked if there were clinical trials, but there weren't for what he had. And he even, the last few days of his life, started a different chemo. It was for breast cancer, I think. It was something related to breast cancer that we didn't care. He was desperate. But no, he never really accepted. We never really had that conversation. Sadly.
So you had to do all of that without him really sort of seeing it all, I guess.
Well, you just did it.
Yeah.
That's how it was, and hindsight's great. You know, you might say different things now, but it was how he managed it, and it's how we had to deal with it.
Did he ever talk to you about making a cancer centre in Warrnambool?
No.
He never mentioned anything like that?
No.
So is it true that after Peter passed away, you found some notes or something?
That's right.
What happened?
So what happened is he had to go back to Melbourne for 1 week of treatment, radiotherapy treatment. It was palliative. And he wouldn't let me come. He said, no, I'll go down on the train, stay.
Wow.
And he was okay. You would look at him, even to the day he passed away, that he still looked pretty okay in a way. So he insisted on going down. So I stayed home with the kids, went back to work. So he went down for this week, and he was turning 50 the next March. So I knew nothing of this, but he obviously sat up in the hospital bed down there and made plans for the 50th birthday that the girls and I had said to him about having. No, I don't want a birthday. No, it wasn't going to have it. But he decided to have that birthday, obviously, when he was down there. So he planned it, and I found that the day after he passed away, I opened up his briefcase to get keys of cars and things to hand back to his workplace. And here were 3 fool's cap pages of handwriting of that where he was having this party. He was going to charge $200 a head for people to come, and there was going to be a band and... now what was his name? Rex Hunt
Yes.
was going to come and host it for it. Oh, he was big thinker.
Yeah.
It was going to be out at his boss's property, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it had all these people, and it was a lot of big people around the region.
Yeah.
Back then it was Dennis Knapfine and people in government and things. And it had to raise funds for better cancer services.
Yeah.
That's really how how it was written. So I found that and I looked at that, and there was a palliative care nurse we became friendly with who I had known previous. Shane Timms was his name, and he came around and I showed him. I said, look what I've found. And he looked at it, and he was a very committed cancer nurse in the region. And I said, we're going to have to do something with this. And he said, yes, we are. So within really 2 days of finding this, we decided that at his funeral on the Friday, he passed away on the Monday, on the Friday, that we would open up to, in lieu of flowers, donations to something.
Yeah.
What was that something? We had to come up with a name pretty quickly. We didn't know anything about it at all, but so we came up with Peter's Project. Simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever that project was going to turn out to be.
Yeah. So, and a lot of people do that now in lieu of flowers.
Back then they didn't really.
Yeah.
But so that's how it started, really very naively, without knowing what this was going to turn into.
Yep.
And people donated at his funeral. There was $3,500 donated at his funeral. It was huge. There were so many people there because he was well known. He was known as the farmer's friend.
Yeah. Yeah. And starting that, so was that a charity that you started in his name?
Well, it was eventually. We didn't get, we had the funeral and then a few things, we started talking to a few things to different people after that. So the first meeting of what you would call Peter's Project, I called in March 2009, the week before his 50th birthday.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. And then from there, you obviously organised larger events.
That's right. Once we had our initial meeting, I called together people in the community that, I knew were movers and shakers themselves.
Yeah.
And we had an initial meeting of about 30 people, and I put to them that it would be great to get better cancer services, whatever that was, whether it was radiotherapy. There was no radiotherapy available between Adelaide and Geelong, Ballarat and Melbourne.
Wow, that's
1,000 kilometres.
Yeah.
So we needed to do something. We had great chemotherapy here.
Yep.
But the radiotherapy was the issue. So out of those 30 people at that meeting, probably half laughed and walked away and said, no, never going to do it. So we came down to a core group and we met every month.
Yep.
We became a registered charitable organisation. We had a great accountant, our accountant Michael Becks, who came on board pro bono. We had a lawyer, Rob Cole, local people that said, we'll help, let's get this done. So we did all those things properly, set up trust accounts, all those things.
Yeah.
Got a board, we had a committee, so we had board members, and worked through each month and in between. And Dr. Terry Hayes came on board onto the committee, and she was vitally needed in that for her medical expertise, both hospitals in Warrnambool. So that's how we started, very slowly, and we had that party for his 50th birthday.
You did?
We did. And I invited people that we knew from the area. There was about 200 there, and we made $27,000.
Fantastic.
So, it was a celebration for him, but it was the start of what Peter's Project was.
Yeah.
So it was a long haul. So we then we sort of launched in a way to the community of who we are in 2010, but it was very small. And again, people looked and said, oh, what are you doing? This won't work. But
Is this when you stopped being so shy? Did you have to get up and start talking?
Yes, this is when Vicki Jellie had to change. She had to morph into someone else, whether I liked it or not, because
you had a passion to do something.
I'd put my hand up naively, I suppose, looking back at it now and not realised what I'd stepped into.
Yeah.
So I had to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Vicki Jellie that over the years has suffered from anxiety and panic attacks had to be a different woman.
Wow.
So it was a big change, and it never totally fixed any of that, but when you've got to do something, you've got to do it.
And you have this amazing support of
absolutely, and it was the support of the people. It was the support of that committee, that board, my family, my girls. It was hard, you know.
But also, if you've started this, you kind of feel like, oh, now I owe it to everyone, and I need to keep going.
Yeah, look at a lot of the meetings. I'd go to meetings and come home, and on the way home in the car, I'd cry all the way home and say, Peter, what am I doing? What am I doing this? You know, go home, get up the next day, and you're right again. But there was also, became a bit of interest. The media came on board, started being interested. So we started talking politically, and there were some elections coming, so we put ourselves out there for that. We were lobbyists, really. Here's this little community group as lobbyists, knew nothing, and writing letters to the minister. You know, we met up at Southwest Healthcare at one stage. It was, I think, 2010, and Daniel Andrews was then the health minister.
Right.
And he sat at the table with us, and it was all very good conversation with Bowen Health and Geelong and a lot of different people. But in reality, the message was, no, you will never get anything down here. You will go to Geelong for your treatment.
Yeah.
It was all very polite and everything, but that was the message.
Yeah.
So we fought against that, and lots of talking, lots of emails. I'm sure my email address would be blocked at many places in Spring Street, because that's I used to email all the time. But look, asked a lot of questions. We also went up to Wagga in New South Wales to look at a cancer centre up there that had been born of the community.
Right.
So we went up there and had a look and learned and listened how they did it. It was different to what we were, but it was a good start, and we came back very enthused and with a lot of ideas.
Yeah, definitely. Is it true that you first raised $5 million before you got federal or state funding?
No, we really lobbied the governments, and we were very fortunate to have some state and federal elections come along.
Okay.
So we very much lobbied and put in submissions to the state government in budgetary, submissions. That was back in 2012 we did this, and the state government had offered up $5 million, but what was that $5 million going to do? It wasn't would get us a front door really of a centre. And Dennis Napthine was our local member back then. He worked very hard for us with that, and so but we needed more. So we again, politicians met with them, and they promised us that if we worked hard with them and we put forward a submission. Anyway, in the budget in 2013, we there's so many dates and so much time.
Yeah, you're remembering very well.
We were given another 10 million, so we had 15 million from the state government. So what that meant, who knew, because 15 million still wasn't a lot.
No.
Would that just cover radiotherapy? What would it be?
Yeah.
But it was a big tick. It was a big tick. So we were then lobbying the federal government, and Dan Tehan was our member, and I had many meetings with Dan Tehan. Our board members and myself went to Canberra, and I remember then Tanya Plibersek was then the Minister for Health federally. We met with her. She listened very intently and was very kind, but sort of said, go away. We met with opposition up there, and because there was a federal election coming up, and so came home asking for 10 million up there. So we had the 15 million from the state that was ticked, set in concrete. And there was a feasibility study going on that the state government had started, But as soon as they committed to that 15 million, they turned it into an implementation study.
Right.
So plans were started.
Yeah.
So they were planning, and really it was going to be a $40 million build. Now we weren't going to get that money, so I think they sort of chiselled it back to a $30 million build. So we knew if we could get 10 from the feds, we had 15 from the state, we were $5 million short, and we needed to come up with that.
Yeah.
So that's where the $5 million came from. So Peter's Project, in our wisdom back then, said, we will get this.
Yes.
Not knowing how particularly, because we'd never really asked for money from the community up till then, because we didn't know, we couldn't ask.
Yeah.
People had done some fundraising and different things over the years, and that we had about $350,000 in the bank that people had given.
Yeah.
But we couldn't commit to what it was. But now this was getting real. So we fully launched Peter's Project, and we called it Target 5 Million.
Yes.
And so we launched at the Lighthouse Theatre here in Warrnambool, invited many and varied people, and that was in July 2013.
Yep.
And we said we needed to raise $5 million. So that was, and our local media came on board, which was fabulous. Radio and print media really, really came on board. Without them, we wouldn't have got through it.
Yeah.
Facebook was there, those sort of social things, but very minimal back in those days. So it was interviews and things like that. So we were still lobbying for this federal money, and that was July. And in, I think, September that year, there was the federal election, and we'd had a promise from Dan Tehan about a month prior to the election that if they got in, if the Liberal coalition got in federally, they would give us the 10 million. And they got in.
Oh, fantastic.
So there was that 10 million. So that was sort of happened while our fundraising was going.
Yeah. So you had it all ready to go. And then who were the people that were helping to plan this place? Who was responsible for the build? How did it get built?
It was the state government, and they put out tenders, and that was through private tender, and also Bowen Health, so it was Epworth back then.
Yeah.
So it went out to tender, which was really good. It was fabulous. The Peter's Project board, a group of us were very involved. The government allowed us to be involved.
That's great.
Which is very unusual.
Yeah.
But we were able to say what our vision was for it, not the technical bit, but, even towards the end when the planning was really happening, where a television would go, all those really good things. We were kept up to date, and we were very grateful for that.
Yeah.
So the fundraising happened, and it was full time. I gave up my paid job to head that with Peter Heaton from 3YB and the committee, and we set up an office, and people just wanted to help.
Yeah.
Because we'd built this great foundation of who we were and what we stood for those years prior, and we're always very clear and transparent in everything we did, that people believed in us, and cancer had affected every one of us, whether it was your family, your colleague. So the amount of events and things that just happened were amazing, and they were reported in the paper and on the radio, and I went to so many different things. We had a greyhound called Peter's Project. We had all these things that people came forward and did. There were wonderful balls and sausage sizzles, and the kids from the schools did walkathons, and some amazing heartfelt things that happened, and there was always a story behind why they were doing it. And we had some brave people in the community that also had cancer that aren't with us now, that went to the media and told their story and why they wanted, and they'd spent weeks in Geelong away from their family, and that's why we needed the treatment here.
And it's the stories that make it more powerful.
It's the stories that got us over the line.
Yeah.
It was real, and everyone could understand, and it was supporting the community. And every cent of the money ever raised for Peter's Project, no one's ever paid wages. We paid minimal administration cost of, a post office box
Yeah.
or, a few stamps, and but stamps were provided, and, people volunteered to help me run the office. Things in kind, amazing things. So we had no cost really.
Yeah.
We might have paid for a bit of printing, but the printer, he would give it to us half price or for free.
Yeah.
It was all those things. My life changed of the person I was prior to Peter passing away to who I was then and now, because of what I've learned and the connection with people, because we live in an amazing place. So it was just amazing. Callaghan Motors here gave us a car to drive and signed it all up. And then when we'd used it, after 12 months, they sold it and gave us the money.
Oh my goodness.
It's all these stories.
So much generosity and kindness.
School kids giving their prizes they'd won at school, and just beautiful. So I went to so many events. It was a great year of my life.
Yeah.
It was full on, but it was great.
Did that give you your boost to do the public speaking that you had to do?
I had to.
Yeah.
I had to. I was a nervous wreck before I did it, but anyway, we got there. But so we gave ourselves 12 months to raise that money, but we had $5 million in 9 months.
Great.
Now it's unheard of. And it went on to raise 6.5 million, because people kept doing things, and we said, we've got the money, but it was amazing. So it was great for the community, because everyone stood up to be counted, and everyone would have given their dollar somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
So it was community owned.
Yes.
And that was the most important thing.
Yeah.
We got that federal money, the building started, all the planning, all those sort of things. And in 2016, on the 16th of July, that Southwest Regional Cancer Centre opened its doors.
And Dennis Snapthine came and joined you on that day.
That's right.
And said the most beautiful things about you and your community when he did that. And do you remember that feeling? Did you feel like, now I need a holiday? Or did you...
Look, that was a big day. That was, I think... That was probably one day I really broke down a bit, because you keep going, because you have to. And here we were opening this amazing building, and people were starting to get their treatment, but I would have given it all back.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, Peter would be so proud of you. He would just be...
Oh, yeah, he would have been pretty happy. He would have been happy with everyone, his community and everyone. But look, it's a great outcome, but it was difficult for myself and the girls that day. It was a big day, but it was exciting. And, if you go inside that centre, and the outcome that when you're having your chemotherapy, you can watch over the sea, and, it's amazing. And
wonderful.
Just the care that Liam Dukes, who's the manager up there, he's just run that just so beautifully with a kind heart and their expertise. So it's been amazing. So it was a great day for the celebration of the community. Community were able to go through the centre that day if they wanted to. We had people come from Portland, and there was a little girl that was at the Bulwarra Primary School over there in Portland, near Portland, that I'd been to her school, and it's where I took something really important. Part of their school logo was "Nothing is impossible." And after I'd been there, I took that with me everywhere I went.
Yeah.
And this girl won the end of year prize in year 6, and she donated it to Peter's project.
Oh, wow.
And so she came over with her mother the day of the open day at the Cancer Centre, and they were a little bit late, and she got there, and she was in year 8 or something then, a couple of years on, and showed her around, and she started crying, and I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "My grandmother's having treatment here."
Oh, wow.
So it's meant so much.
It's like full circle.
It was. He was this, 13-year-old girl that had done so much.
Yeah.
There was no cancer there in her family, but here she was now. She'd done so much, and her grandmother was benefiting. So I'll never forget that story, and I've told that a lot, and that young girl will never forget that.
No, and imagine who she's going to be and what difference she's going to make one day, because she has seen what a community and what one voice can turn into so many voices.
Oh, it was so many voices,
what that can achieve.
So it was ownership for the region, really.
Yeah.
You know, there were people, Hamilton, you know, down Timboon, everywhere, Camperdown. People did lots of great things.
Yeah.
So it was that pride that we'd all achieved together. And, you know, really, it started off with Peter Jellie, but it turned into everyone very quickly because it was about the other people who lost their lives and weren't so lucky and had their treatment away as well. So it turned into all the Peters. Yeah. All the Peters in the region.
Absolutely. And then in 2017, Malcolm Turnbull awarded you with the local Australian Hero Award.
Yeah.
What happened there?
Yeah, that was a shock. That was a shock. Even to be nominated was a shock for the Victorian one, and the nomination. I'm really not into things like that. As I said, I'm a pretty quiet person. I've had to step up, I know that, and I have had to change, but that isn't my sort of thing. But the nomination was there. We went off to Melbourne for it and said, oh, well, we'll get to go to Government House. That'll be good.
Yeah.
And off we went down with the family, and I was nominated. I was voted in there for that as the Victorian local hero to go off to Canberra. So, well, okay. So you know, I did it for the community because that's what it was about. That's the story.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. It was. I was holding the story.
Yeah.
I was delivering the story.
Yeah.
And that's how I took it on. I was doing this for all of us. So we went to Canberra, and it was exciting. We took that as a great opportunity. One of my daughters had come home from London to come.
Oh, great.
So went up there, and we had a great couple of days meeting all these amazing people.
Yeah.
You know, the experience, that's what I went for, was the experience. And I was so fortunate to meet all these people, whether it was Australian nominees, of the year nominees, all different people. And we had great things. We went to the Prime Minister's house for morning tea, all those things that the everyday person doesn't get to do. And I didn't care who the Prime Minister was or wasn't.
No.
You know, it was all those great things. So it was very humbling. So we went along for the experience.
So you had your girls all...
Two of them were there,
Yeah.
So we went, they flew up and we went, and we met them there that day, and we'd been instructed at the ceremony that day, that evening was at Parliament House, which was fabulous. It was very glamorous and all those sort of things, and something I'd never experienced. Anyway, two of the girls were there, and so we all had to sit in specific places, all those sort of things, and we'd been instructed that if you are the one, we all had to have a speech ready, and if you are the one, a camera will come near you and the light will go on when your announcement is. So anyway, we sat in there where we were, went through all the different announcements and discussions and things, and as they were ready to announce there were 12 nominees, they went through them all, and I just sat there actually probably thinking, don't pick me, because I'm so nervous.
Don't want the camera here.
Yeah, that was because I was very nervous. Don't pick me, and I knew it wouldn't be me, because these other amazing people that I'd met during the days had so much more, and I sat there, don't pick me, but I was oblivious that there was a camera rolling up beside us. And then as Malcolm Turnbull read my name out, this light went on. I probably looked like a stunned rabbit because I couldn't believe that it was me.
Yeah. Oh, your girls must have been over the moon.
Well, my daughter Claire had bet me, while I was sitting there waiting, had bet me $5 that I would win. And I said, yeah, Claire, righto. Anyway, she leant over and said, you owe me $5. So it was funny. And it was just amazing. So I had to sort of gather my thoughts, had the speech there, ready to go, up the stairs in my heels that I don't usually wear, and all I could think of was that I'm going to slip down these white stairs on national television. Anyway, I didn't. Malcolm Turnbull was very gracious, and I delivered the speech for the community.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, it was overwhelming. I was very proud because it was for the community.
Yeah.
And I know that half of Warrnambool was watching the television that night, whether they watched it normally or not.
They would have been watching it for you.
They were having parties with beer and champagne and all that sort of thing at home in front of the television, because I got so many messages and things. So it was exciting for everyone, because everyone knew.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. Even though for me, it was difficult, really, because again, it brought it back that, you know, if Peter was here now, and I said that, I'd give it all back, but that's not how it was. Yeah. So it was a celebration for the community and what we'd done, and Australia-wide recognition for what Warrnambool and District Southwest Victoria had done.
It's your name on the award, but what that translates to is actually the people of Warrnambool.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. So it was exciting, and it was just a whirlwind from there.
Yeah.
You know.
And everyone, including that little girl out there in Portland, they would have all said, that's from us. We did that. Yeah.
That's right, and that's what it was. And, you know, we were up and operating by then. The cancer centre was there, and people were, you know, were being treated when we were told, you will never get this. So that's why the Warrnambool Primary School motto, nothing is impossible, I stand by that now.
Yeah, yeah. What a beautiful motto. For those kids to actually have a connection to that story as well is really important. So once the cancer centre was opened, what were you doing with your life then? Did you have a break?
Well, I had to find a job. I had to earn some money again, because I'd sort of volunteered for those years, and that, which was fine, and that 1 year and a half really without a paid job. So I had to look for a job. It was a bit difficult, because either people wanted you or didn't, because you were bringing, not baggage, but you were bringing something with you that either they wanted or didn't. Yeah. Yep. So it was a bit difficult, and for me to settle back in was difficult. I'm customer service focused. That's where I've come from all my life. So I wanted something. So I had a couple of jobs. I've had a couple of jobs over the last few years. Yeah. And but still, there was still continuing things with Peter's project. You know, we turned 12 months after we started the fundraising, and we reached our goal. We morphed into the Peter's Project Foundation, because we had more money than the $5 million required. So we set, all that was held in trust, and the board continued on, and so we set up the foundation and invested funds and things like that for the future, and that's still continuing. Look, we haven't asked for anyone to donate since 2014, but people have and continue to do so if they've chosen to do. And we've often had people come, you know, I'll get a phone call, write a letter, or a cheque will turn up and say, when you had your fundraising, I really didn't think anything of it, or we were away or whatever. My wife's just had breast cancer and here's $5,000. Yeah. Because now it's real. As I said, until you walk in those shoes, you don't realise. Yeah.
And I think also you're going to have a lot of people that probably are going through, you know, treatment themselves, who do want to give back to the foundation because they know how much it helps them.
Absolutely. So we've been able to do some wonderful things with that money. Each year we put out expressions of interest to the health providers in the region. Yeah. You know, we're Portland, Haywood, Camperdown, you know, Port Fairy, Warrnambool, to what we can help them with cancer related. It has to be cancer related, but that can cover palliative care and things like that. Yeah. So we've been able to do some great things. We support some of the programs up at the cancer centre. That's significant money every year. We've just recently been able, with contributions from so many people over the years, we've been able to join with Southwest Healthcare to buy a block of land adjoining the cancer centre site. Great. We've recently gone halves with Southwest Healthcare in that to future-proof the centre. Yes. So that in time to come, if it needs additional buildings, that land's there. Yeah. So that was significant for the region as well recently. But
so as far as distance goes, where is the next closest cancer centre? So you've
Geelong, Ballarat.
So you've got quite a large region that this is their closest place.
In Portland and Hamilton, they do chemotherapy.
Yeah.
Chemotherapy is done in a lot of sort of centres.
Yeah.
But the radiotherapy was the crux of what we wanted.
Yeah.
So the closest radiotherapy would be Geelong or Ballarat or Adelaide.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Mildura now might have one because they had nothing up there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of rural regional areas looked at what we did.
Yeah.
And have then not in the same way have been able to get some sort of radiotherapy there. So we have people come from Mount Gambier because they were travelling to Adelaide, so it's 2 hours here. They'll come and stay for the week in accommodation, but people come from Mount Gambier, Dartmoor, Camperdown, Hamilton, to use the centre for whatever reason.
Yeah. So you started working again, and then how did this shy woman named Vicki Jellie decide to go and apply to be part of council and mayor?
Yeah, sometimes I still wonder about that.
How did that happen?
Look, I sort of semi-retired. My husband, I remarried to a wonderful man called Alan, whose wife had passed away of cancer, so we've had a great connection.
Yeah.
And support to each other, and he had retired, and it was sort of, you should retire too. So anyway, I left a job that I'd had for a few years, and then COVID-19 happened.
Right.
And I was going to look for something part-time, 2 days a week or something, because I just couldn't sit still. But COVID-19 happened, we went into lockdown, all that sort of thing last March. So I thought, it's no use really looking for a job now, let's just sit tight. So like everyone else, stayed at home, did all those things. But there'd been a lot happening in Warrnambool City with the council over the years. There was a few different things that had happened. I felt personally, and along with a lot of other people, obviously there needed to be some change.
Yeah.
The city, the community were calling out for change. So I had people approach me about council, and I hadn't overly thought about it before, but did think about it seriously.
People must have come to you because you're a change maker. They could see that you could get things done.
I think they came to me because they knew I wasn't afraid to speak up.
Yeah.
And I'm not, because I've learnt that.
Yeah.
I've learnt that if you want something, you need to speak up.
Yeah.
And nothing's impossible.
Yeah.
So people came to me, and first of all I said, oh, no, but I kept thinking, and there was a lot in the media going on with council, and good, bad and indifferent, there did need to be a change.
Yeah.
So after a lot of consultation with the family and a few close friends, I decided to put my hand up. So it was a big move. It was a big, I think there were 23 people that stood for council, 23 or 24, can't remember now. Anyway, and it was difficult to promote your stance for council because we were in lockdown.
Yeah, yeah.
It really turned into a social media event, which I don't love that, but it's how it had to be.
Yeah.
And media, so that was a bit tricky. But anyway, there was some great people that put their hand up as well. I didn't join a team as such, but there were other great people that we supported each other and talked to each other.
Yeah.
We all had all different visions because that's what a council needs.
Yes.
So I went to the election, and it was sort of another big shock that I got in, I suppose.
Yeah.
But committed to the community, I just felt that the council had lost the connection to the community.
Yeah.
And I'm not a businesswoman, but I felt I could bring that connection back.
Absolutely, and that's what you want in leadership. Someone who actually cares and loves their community.
That's right. That's right. And there was a lot of repair that needed to be done on many things. So when it was astounding, really. It was an interesting experience. So.
And do you feel like, that year that you did serve as mayor, that the change was made that you hoped for?
Look, we're all brand new council.
So the whole council was new?
7 new councillors, no one was returned.
Wow.
Which is very unusual.
Yeah.
That can be taken as good or bad, because it might have been great to have some experience in there, but that's how it played out.
Yep.
So we've had to do a lot of learning.
Yep.
And we've all brought different things to the table, different strengths, and we've learnt a lot in the last year. So I became mayor, which again I hadn't planned on that.
Yep.
But I really enjoyed the year as mayor. It was great. And it was still tricky because of COVID. There was a lot of events and things that were cancelled, as we know. You had to do a lot of Zoom. I learned how to do Zoom. You know, all those things, big meetings that we're involved in, like Regional Cities Victoria, Great South Coast Board, a lot of different things. But a lot of reading, a lot of learning, a lot of asking questions, and again, still in this last year, there was still a lot of turmoil with some things happening that that had come from previous issues with council, so we had to deal with that, but we have. The 7 of us don't always agree, but that's not what we're meant to do.
No, exactly.
But
that's what diversity is all about.
That's right.
Yeah.
But we get on and we talk through things.
Good.
So we've kept it vanilla in a way. For our year of learning, we've achieved things, and we've got great aspirations, and which is exciting. I just think we've calmed everything down, and we're business as usual, and we're all there for the community. There's no political aspirations for us other than being on city council. So I think our vision is there for the city and for the community. So it was a great year. I loved it.
Fantastic. So before we go, what are you seeing for your future? Like, are you still working with the council now? How long do you want to do that for? Do you want to retire and finally, when the borders open up, go and see the world again? What do you want to do?
That's right. No, look, I'm still enjoying, because just because you're not mayor doesn't mean you're, we've still got 3 years left in our term, so it's a 4-year term. So I've become involved in quite a few of the community parts. So working with different groups, we're looking at a new surf club. So I'm working with them down there along with council officers, and, we've just put out our priority list, whether could be a new swimming pool, community hubs, the breakwater down at the beach, lots of things. So because of my year as the mayor, I probably got a bit more involved. So I'm involved in still a lot of meetings and things. And we have our weekly briefing, which is, often 4 and 5 hours, and our monthly meeting, which we just had yesterday. Lots of things, lots of contact from the community. I love the community contact us and ask us different things, whether as a group or individually, attend functions. Just loving it. So now I've got less mayoral duties with that. I can really get my teeth into a lot of these community things, and I'm really enjoying it. So the city's got a great future, and we're really excited to rebuild it again and have a good focus on the residents. So that's for the next 3 years, so I'm tied up there. But when the borders open, yes, might be able to slip away I don't think we'll get overseas for a while. It's still tricky, isn't it, with COVID and what we've got to do. But I've got, a daughter in Tasmania and an auntie just across the border that's 97 and lives at home and has been by herself. And so I want to be able to get over and do those things.
And have your girls had children?
Yes, I've got a couple here in Warrnambool.
Oh, that keeps you busy then.
So that's been busy. We've got 2 little grandsons that are just beautiful and wild and just amazing. So that's kept us busy. And we're involved in a lot of things. We like to go walking, all that sort of stuff. But that community connection, I love walking down the street in Warrnambool, because you say hello to people and how are things going, and we're so lucky to live in such a great city.
We really are.
Yeah.
And Warrnambool's lucky to have you.
No, look, we're all, supporting each other, and that's what's happened over the years. Life has changed, and sometimes you've just got to step up and look at things differently. And I suppose for me, I'm a different person that I was, 13 years ago. Peter's been gone 13 years now. And it's still hard every minute of the day, even though I've got a great life now, but I think you know, we've all got to remember that life is short, and
It
we've
is.
got to embrace everything we have and be very grateful.
Yeah, live intentionally and do what's important to you.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, thank you for our chat today,
it's been
and thank you
great.
for all the wonderful work you've done for our community. And hopefully I'll get to talk to you again soon.
Yes, thank you
All right,
very
thank
much,
you.
Lisa.
Thank
Thanks.
you. If you would like to see the wonderful work they do at the Southwest Regional Cancer Centre, then click on the links that we have provided, and always remember that just one person can create change.